Hello and good morning, everybody. Very happy to be here today and thank you for coming. We're going to present today a video about Excel and how geologists could use Excel when processing their own data. The video is about 40 minutes in length, and while it is running, I will be answering any questions that you may have, and after the video, I will stay here for a few minutes more if you have any more questions. I will save this presentation later on YouTube, and I will try to put the captions, the closed captions in Spanish for those that speak that language. And that's it. Let's start with the video. Good afternoon and welcome to episode number 5 of Golden Droplets. Today and for the next few episodes, I will be talking about Excel for geology. Today, we are going to go through the following steps: how to convert the data to a table and the usefulness of doing this thing. And this is something that I believe it would be a surprise for you. Then we're going to show you how to name the table, how to freeze panels, and 2 examples of the usefulness of converting the data to a table, which is the dynamic expansion and the filtering of data. We will start with a data set, and you will hear me saying this many times. Any processing that you do with Excel, always keep the original data in a separate tab. That way, no matter what transformations or changes you do to the table during the processing of the data, you can always come back to the original data. I also, in this case, I'm going to split my data set into 2 groups, and I will explain you why I'm doing this later when I'm going to be talking about the conversion of the data to a table. So first of all, let's take all this data, the upper split, copy it, go to the next tab, which is convert to table, and paste. And to convert to table, there are several ways, but the easiest one is just to click Control T as table. The program will show you the data range. It's okay. It will tell you that the table has headers. You click OK. And just with that, you have converted your data to a table. Now, there are many different uses for this thing, and we're going to show you 2 or 3 of them right now. One of the first easy thing to see, if you scroll down the screen, you will see that yes, you're going to lose that first row, but now here you have the titles of the columns. So you don't need to come back and forward to remember which elements are you working with. There is, of course, another way of freezing both the first row and the first column, which is better because at this moment, if I move to the right, I will lose the column of the samples. So I don't know which sample is this. So the best way of doing this is you click on the next cell below the first row and to the right of the first column. Once you are here, you go to View, Freeze Pans, Freeze Pans. And now the first column and the first row, they are both freeze. So you all the time you know which sample and which element you're talking about. Now, let's go back to why we work with tables instead of just the numbers. Let's say that I want to add a new table that is the product of 2 elements. Just an example. So let's say I take this element here and I will multiply by that element there. And you will see that when I click enter, I will get not only the value of that cell, we'll get the value for the whole column, which save you a lot of time. Now, let us say that I would like to make a graphic. Let's say I will select the silver and the gold. I'm doing that by pressing Control and clicking on the column. I have the two columns selected. Then I go to Insert, Graphic. Let's say I'm gonna use a scatter plot, like this. And I get my representation of silver against gold. Now, just remember this picture. Now I'm going to add more data to this column, which is normally what happens. You're receiving every month or so, you're receiving new results from the lab. So you want to add those new data, those new results to this table. So when you're working in this format of table, this graphic will automatically upgrade as soon as you add data to the table. Let's show it. Let's go back to this column here, the split, and I will add all those data just by copy, coming back to convert to table. At the end, I just press Ctrl V, and now if I go back to my image, you will see I have all these new points that were not there before. So it's very fast and easy to upgrade graphics. Now, the other important or useful thing that we're going to talk today are the slicers. And for that, again, I will go to my original data, copy it. I go here to slicers, paste. Okay, I convert this to a table. Again, Control T. It's converted to a table. And now I go to Insert. And in Insert, I'm going to go to Slicers. Here, I'm going to choose a couple of elements, or 2 or 3. The problem with the slicer is that they generate windows that cover part of the data, which is not very useful, but we can manage that. So let's say I'm going to use silver and gold. When I click here, I will get 2 little columns, 2 little windows that are the slicers for silver and gold. And you probably have heard that there is always a good correlation between gold and silver, which is true for most of the time, but there are cases where this is not the case, where there is a different correlation between gold and silver. This slicer allows us with a few clicks to figure out if that is the case or not. So let's say that I will go and select here the values of gold that are above 1 gram. So I just click here, go to the end, shift, click, and I select all the values of gold that are above 1 gram per ton, which are here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 samples. Down here it says 8 of 99 records have value of gold above 1. Now, if I go to the silver and I do the same thing and say, okay, I'm going to select the highest values of silver. I don't know, those, you see no value of gold are shown because in this case, there is a reverse correlation between silver and gold. And I will show it to you. I will eliminate the filter and I go back here and select the lower values. And here you see we have 5 samples that have gold with low values of silver. So just by doing this, you know that you have a reverse correlation between gold and silver in this data set. Imagine that you have and I will show you this probably in the next video when we're going to be dealing with drilling data. You have a table that has the holes and have the values, and you would like to know which holes have values of gold about 1 gram. So you just select here in this slicers the value of gold, and it will show you which holes, in this case, which samples contain the combination of gold and silver, and you can add as many slicers as you want. And we will be using the same data as last week. I will put this file in a public reservoir so you can download it and work with it at your own pace. So remember always to keep your original data in a separate tab, so no matter what you do, to what transformation you do, you can always revert back to the original data. You convert this data into a table just by pressing Ctrl-T. Now, the first thing we're going to see today is auditing. And sometimes we receive data and we need to check the quality of the data before start working with it. Usually Excel is intelligent enough to show you with these little green triangles that your cell have some problem. For example, this column here is supposed to be a multiplication of gold by silver. But if you check here, you can see this just a number. And in this case, the multiplication was done between gold and arsenic. So if you have a small data set like this one, you can just click and choose and select and correct the errors. But if you have hundreds and hundreds of rows, this is the best way to do it. So you select the column, okay? Then you go to Find and select, or just press F5, go to Special, and here you select Column Differences and click OK. And as you can see, the program have selected your 2 columns that have the problem. You can fill them with a color, so it will be easier to see. And when you finish this thing, you just go to the filter and you say filter by color, select the color, and here you have the rows that you really need to fix. So it's very, very easy to do. The next thing that we're going to be looking at is the duplicate, but before that I'm going to show you how you can do a copy of a tab, a complete copy with everything, formatting, etc. Very easy. You just click, drag, and then press Ctrl. When you press Ctrl, you see the little plus. You let it go, and you have a perfect copy of the previous tab. So let's go and check for duplicate. So to check for duplicate, you just select the table, and then you just go to Data, Remove Duplicates. And I suggest that you select all. So we're going to make sure, absolutely sure that it's a duplicate. You select OK, and the machine immediately find the 3 duplicates and eliminate it from your data set, and you're done. Another common situation is when you have blanks in your data set. So again, you select all the columns, you press F5, or you just go to Home, Find, Select, go to Specials, and now you select blanks, and you click OK. All the blanks are selected. And again, from Home, you just go to Delete, Rows, and your data is ready. It's very fast, very simple. Another interesting situation is the data validation. And this works better when you are entering the data and you want to make, or somebody is entering the data and you want to make sure that they do not make any errors by introducing a wrong number. This is especially useful, for example, if you have GPS and you know that you have only 6 digits, you can put a constraint that, there cannot be more than 6 or less than 5 numbers in your column. So to do that, you just select the column and go to Data, data validation. And here you just, in setting, you establish which are the controls that you want. You can put a message and you can put also an error alert. So this is very simple to do. Also in the range of adding data to prevent any errors, once you have your table like this and you want, for example, to introduce here a number, you just press Alt and the down arrow. And then you can just select which number you want or which letter you want, etc., etc. So it's very good. Now, let us now continue with a very useful option of Excel, which is called the goal seek, which is also under what if scenarios. Let's assume that we have some information from a deposit. We know the volume of the ore body. We know the density, we can determine the tonnage, but we have not received yet the result from the lab. But even now, we can use this program to determine if the result will be interesting enough to continue the exploration of this target. So let's say that we would like to have a profit of $2 million from this situation. What should be the grade in order to be able to get the 2 million profit? So for that, we go to the what if, goal seek. We set the cell that we want to determine as this one here, the B12. We want, as I said, to obtain $2 million. And we want to estimate this by changing the grade. So once we have selected the 3 parameters, just click OK. And the program says that in order to get $2 million of profit, we need grades that are equal or above 3.5 grams per ton. So this is a really useful thing. Another useful graphic is the trend forecast. Let's say that we have been collecting samples, soil sampling in a very difficult terrain, and for weeks 1 to 9, we have been collecting these amounts every week, and we would like to get an idea when the program will be finished. So for this, we select all the data, go to data, and forecast sheet. And here we have the graphic that tells us, the most probably, the best results, and the low results. So with this, we can estimate when the program will be finished. We can increase the date of the forecast in the future. We can leave that graphic there. And we have our forecast. The next one is a very useful tool. It's called the Quick tool. And for this, the only thing we need to do is to select all the data. And when we do this, you will see this little icon here. So you click on the icon. And here are all the things that you can do with this thing. You can do formatting, you can do charts, you can establish totals, you can convert it to a table, you can do spark lines. Spark lines are very fun. Let's check on spark line, and I want to make a line. And here, in just one click, you have the behavior of all these lines with respect of all the samples for all the elements. So explore the Quick tools is a very useful way of processing your data very quickly. And see, you can have average. That's it, the average for each of these things. So it's a very useful Quick tool. It's called Quick tool to have an idea of your data. This situation, at least I found it very frequently. When I have samples that should be numbers, and some of them are as text, or not only sample, there are sometimes values. And a text could be that it was introduced with an apostrophe at the beginning, which means that this is a text, or it was formatted as a text. So of course you can each do this one by one, but there is a very interesting way of doing this thing. So first of all, type 1 someplace in the sheet and copy that. Then select the data, go to paste special, and multiply, and click OK. As you can see, it converts all the text to numbers. It's a very quick way to solve this problem. And finally, since we are talking about text, probably you don't know this, but Excel has a spell checker, which is just you select the text and you press F7. And if there are any problems with your data, it will show it up and you can fix it. I want to show you a couple of more tricks of the trade that are very important. I will be talking about pivot tables and charts and how to record a macro. We will use our old data set for that. To create a pivot table, you just select your data, click anywhere inside the table, and then just click on Insert Pivot Table. The computer will recognize the table as a source of the data. We want it on a new worksheet. All that is okay. And I'm just going to show you one example. You can do many things with pivot table, but let's say we want to interactively explore the relationship between the gold and silver values and the type of rock. So for that, you just click and drag the sample to the row, click and drag gold to the values, silver to the values, and as a filter, we will use aluminum. The different value of aluminum will be a reference to the type of rock. So we put aluminum filter. Back here, you click the filter, you can select multiple items, and let's say we are interested in the low values of aluminum. Click OK, and the computer select which sample correspond to the low values of aluminum, and we can see the result for silver and gold. It's very easy to create a chart. You just click on pivot chart. The computer will recommend different types. There are types that you cannot make. For example, you cannot make a scatter because you don't have the data, but line is a very good way of doing this. So we click OK. And we have our graphic distribution for this case. Let's say that we are interested to see all the values of aluminum. Click OK, and immediately the graphics upgrade to show us the thing. So we have interested groups here, here, here. These may be different rock types, and they clearly contains much more silver and gold than the rest. So it's a very simple way to interactively explore your data. Now, let's see this file here. This is how you usually get results from the lab. And of course you need to clean it up. You need to delete all this row, change all the less than or bigger than symbols, etc., etc. You can do this all by hand, but it's easier to create a macro, record a macro. So next time you just apply the macro and it will fix everything for you. But before doing that, you need to save this file in a format that will accept the macros. So you click on File, Save As, and right here you will find Excel Macro Enable workshop. So you select that, say save. So now you can record a macro. To record a macro, you can go to developer and click the selection, or just click down here, this little icon here, which is the record a macro. So let's click it. And we will call this macro cleaning. And we will save it as Control-C, and we will save it on this workbook, and just click OK. So now everything that we're going to be doing now, it will save as a macro. You can stop the macro anytime by clicking this little icon here. First of all, we're going to delete these two tabs that we are not going to use. So we select them, right click, delete, delete, and we have our normal data. The next thing that we need to do is to delete all these lines here that contain information that are not useful to us. So we select them, click delete. Now it is useful to have, instead of having the name of the element and the value, the unit, to have those two together. So to do that, just insert a line, and there is an option in Excel, and you just type like this: text join parentheses. The delimiter will be a comma, so but we need to put it in quotation mark. So quotation mark, comma, space, quotation mark, comma. Just select true for ignoring the space, comma, and then we just need to select the text. So first text will be this one, comma, and the other one will be this one, and parentheses. You click enter, and now you have your silver by part per million. So copy, go to the end of this line, go down, press Shift Control back, and then paste. And now you have all your symbols perfectly well done. Now you may want to take the description of sample from here down here. Before we can delete these two rows, we need to convert this, because at this moment this is a formula. If we delete these two rows, then it will be an error. So just select the line, go to copy, go to paste, and paste value as numbers and with formatting. So now these are just text. There are no formulas. So you can delete these two rows, and that is done. Now, the next step will be to deal with the symbols of bigger than or less than. Usually what I do, if I have, for example, a sample, let's say bigger than 100, I will substitute that by 101. If it is said that it's less than 10, I will substitute it by 9. If it is less than 0.05, I will substitute it by 0.04. But basically, you really don't need to do this because you never work with the lower intervals. So you just, it's simpler just to delete all the symbols. So to do that, just select the whole table, go to Find and Select, Replace, and we will replace first the bigger than. You click on Replace with nothing, you click Replace All, and now you do the same thing for the less, replace all, and close. Now you have your data ready, and you can export this tab to your data set where you're going to do the processing. So next time I'm going to stop the macro. That's it. So next time you have data coming from the same lab, regrettably each lab have their own format, but all the lab repeat the format. So next time you receive samples from the lab, you just click Ctrl+C and it will do this automatically. So now I will present you how I prepare the data to use Surfer or other software to represent. Here we have the original data from the lab. This next tab, which I call the cleaning data, is the table of the data already processed as we did previously when we eliminated all the rows, we put new titles, etc. So the next step is always very useful, is testing the coordinates of our data. To do that, we just copy the columns of UTM East and UTM North and also the sample and create a graphic scatter plot to look at the data. And here is obvious that we may have a problem with this data, which I know because I did it on purpose. I added a 0 at this coordinate here. So this sample is definitely an error. So what we do when we have things like this, we identify this sample is the one that had the problem. So that will tell us which sample is the problem. And then we copy again the columns here, but correcting for the error. We assume that it's an extra 0. We eliminate the extra 0 down here. And as you can see, the graphic shows a more normal distribution of samples. So we can assume that there are no problems with our data. Now, the next step consists in converting everything to one unit. Usually we get percentage, part per million, part per billion, and it's better to convert everything to part per million. So what you do in this case, for example, we have aluminum here, which is in percentage. So we start by inserting a sample, and then we go and click this value multiplied by 10,000, and we click OK. And we have already our aluminum in part per million. And because we are working with a table format, as soon as I click enter, it fills the whole column. So we do this for all the percentage that we find, like calcium, iron, etc. Next, we will do amalgamations if needed. And amalgamations is when you have, for example, all rare earth elements, which are like 7 to 9 to 12 elements that basically contain the same information. So you can just combine them all by adding them all and have one just column called rare earth element. But we also can do this thing for sodium and potassium, which we know are alkaline metals. So in this case, we just create a new column where we call sodium and potassium, and we add the value of sodium and potassium. We got that amalgamated column. The next step is very important. It's called the normalization. And it is important to know that in geochemistry, especially in soil sampling, elements like manganese and iron have a big impact in other elements. So what you need to do is to divide the original value by the standard value of, for example, the original value of barium by manganese, cobalt by manganese, zinc by manganese, etc. So we will do this way. So barium will be equal to the original value of barium that we can find here, divided by the value for manganese. And when we click enter, we get the whole column. And we will do this for the rest of the elements. I will momentarily pause to complete this task.
The last step in the processing of geochemical data that I'm going to be talking about is the determination of erosional level. This is a technique that is not widely known here in America. In Europe, Russia, they all use it all the time. And it's based on the concept that every time a deposit gets formed, there always will be a group of elements that will form on top of the deposit. It's called supra-elements, and a group of elements that will form below the ore deposit, which are called the infra-elements. Examples of supra-elements are mercury, barium, silver, zinc. Example of infra-elements are cobalt, nickel, chrome, etc. So if you create a coefficient, which is called the erosional coefficient, where you divide the supra element by the infra element, you get a number that is bigger than 1, much bigger than 1. That means that the erosional level is up here, that the whole deposit has not been eroded yet. So if you have an anomaly and it falls on this area, it's a very interesting anomaly because the whole source is below the surface, has not been eroded. If on the contrary, you get a very good anomaly, but it's down here, what you're dealing with is eroded anomaly, so it has no value at all. In the middle, well, half and half. So the way of doing this, you just put here your data, with bariums, mercury and zinc and cobalt, nickel and chrome. We do the average and the standard deviation so we can normalize the same values. We normalize, standardize them. And then the erosional level is estimated by the integral part, and we eliminate all the zeros of the supra by the infra. A number like this, 21, is really, really good. It's very high. It means we are up here. A 0 will be somewhere here or even inside the ore body. A -2, -1, we are already down here. If we have like a -16, we are way beyond this. So this is a very useful technique to use, and I recommend strongly that you use it. So the final table will be the data, final data, that we will use to process maps. I use Surfer. I'm gonna show you now a map of this data, and in a future Golden Droplet episode, I will be talking about Surfer, variograms, etc., etc. But before finishing with the Excel table, I want to show you these two tabs here. First one is a table of content, okay, where you can click on the table of content. I will jump directly to the tab that you want, and you click here to go back. And the other thing is the table of content of gallery that shows you a snapshot of every slide, every tab that you have. So when you click, it jumps directly to the thing. These two things are macros, and you can use it very easily when you have your data finished and you have saved your data as an XLSM. You just go to this table, right click, and click here and move or copy. You select what you want, you create a copy. Here you find the book, your book, and just click OK. And it will create this table of content or this table of content of gallery within your data, and it will be very beautiful to present to your people. It's a very interesting way of presenting Excel data. There is a source. I'm going to put this table and the sources on Mendeley, and there will be a link in the description of this video. To finish, let's go quickly to Surfer. And here I presented a three-dimensional model of the elevation with the goal values. And as you can see, there is a beautiful goal anomaly here, and you may be very excited, say, oh gosh, this looks so nice. But if you go here and you select the contour for the erosional level, you will see that the whole anomaly has been eroded. So yes, there is gold there, it's a gold anomaly, but it's an eroded anomaly. So it has no value, it's not prospective.
I think these videos are brilliant, and I'm sure you will like them too. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification bell.
Okay, and that is all that I want to show you about Excel. It's a very useful software available everywhere, and I hope these little tricks and tips will help you introduce more Excel in your daily work. As I mentioned, there will be a video of this presentation. I will try to make the closed caption in Spanish too, so you can follow it. So if there are no questions, and have been looking at the chat and I don't see any, I will say thank you again and see you probably next Saturday. At the same time, I will probably be talking about browsers and the use for browsers for geologists. Again, thank you very much. Have a great